Here's the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, Lincoln Riley. Coach.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Try this again with West Virginia. First time I've ever had two press conferences for the same game. So excited to get up there and play this week. I'm really thankful that Big 12 did a really nice job, I think, of planning, building in these weekends, and giving us an opportunity to make this game up. So we're certainly excited for the opportunity. It's a game that we need. It's a game that's very important for us and our climb as a football team, and continue to make the improvements that we need, to play our best ball here at the end of the year, which I think is so critical. And I think too, just, having missed those 5 days, the previous week, this week's important for us, just to continue to improve, certainly for this game and the challenge that we know West Virginia is going to be, playing a really good football team. Their senior day, obviously, their tremendous defense, very explosive offense. I mean, just a really outstanding football team. It's got a lot of really good players across the board, and we know the challenge that going to Morgantown presents. I mean, it's always been a tough place to play. They've played traditionally very well at home. This year's been no different. They've played outstanding there at home. So, we're excited to have a chance to have the game, thankful to have the chance to have the game. And we need to have a great week and be as ready as we possibly can for Saturday.
Okay, we'll go to questions. Because of another obligation, Coach has to be finished by about 12:25, so please limit yourself to one question so we can get to as many people as possible. We'll start with Eric Bailey, Tulsa World, and then go to Ryan Aber. Eric?
Hey, Lincoln, do you get a feeling that the roster has really reset itself right now in terms of COVID-19 issues after these past 2 weeks? Is there a good chance you'll be in better shape down the stretch? I know we don't know, we can't predict everything, but do you feel better right now?
Oh, I don't know what I'd say reset itself. And like you said, it's so day to day. One day you can be good and one day you cannot be good. We certainly hope to be in a better position than we were the last couple of weeks. I think we've got a chance to be, but you're only, I hesitate to say that just because you're only as good as your next test. And we've still got, a couple to go here this week. So, we've taken obviously some pretty extreme measures, the biggest being canceling a football game or postponing a football game and shutting down our facility for 5 days. And we're banking on, those things paying off and us, getting, back on the correct side of this deal.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ryan Aber, the Oklahoman, and then Joe Bettner.
Yeah, Lincoln, when you look at the secondary, the secondary situation from the other night, how much better positioned were you for something like that this year and that week versus, maybe if the same thing would have happened last year and you would have had that many guys out?
Oh, absolutely. We'd had that many guys out. I don't know that we would have been able to play last year even. And certainly I don't think the quality would probably have been what it was the other night. So, there's so many guys there that have stepped up and become, good football players for us and become dependable players that we want to put in the game. And so, that part's helped. And then obviously the unselfishness of, and the ability of Robert Barnes to be able to kick back there and do that last week was huge for us as well. And, and then we were fortunate as the game went on that we, didn't have any further injuries in the secondary. So, but no, the depth is certainly better. The competitive depth is certainly better. And there's just more guys that we are not only confident putting in the game, but that we want to get snaps and that we are taking starters out to put them in to get snaps. And so that's, it's without a doubt much improved.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Bettner, Norman Transcript, and then Jason Kersey.
Lincoln, you mentioned just the competitiveness, not wanting this game to be called off. And I'm curious, what are the advantages of playing this weekend as far as getting ready for a Big 12 championship as opposed to where Iowa State will have a bye week? I mean, do you see the advantage there of being able to play an extra game before that week?
Worrying about too much about, what's here in a couple of weeks. I mean, I think simply for our football team, we need to play games. I mean, we've had so many bye weeks, and obviously had one bye week that was completely unexpected. And again, like I said, not was it it wasn't a normal bye week. I mean, it's again having the facility shut down that long in the middle of the season was a different deal. So just for us to play the quality of ball and to make the improvements that we need to make, we need to play. And I'm excited that we have the opportunity to play.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Kersey, The Athletic, and then Kerry Murdoch.
Yeah, Lincoln, you mentioned this being your second West Virginia press conference. I'm curious if you also are more prepared for this game, maybe than you would have been, given that you had a few days of practices and things preparing for West Virginia. Or do you feel more prepared?
Oh, hard to say. I mean, it's at the same time, they've had now 3 weeks on us because I think they had a bye week before they were going to play us. They're probably tired of working on Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, is it one of those deals where you can, you're not starting over at the week, certainly. They only played one game in between that. So, I mean, I do think some of the work that we did obviously helps and then you study the game that they played but no, having to work on them a little bit. It's certainly not like we were, starting over on a brand new team, this Monday. I think for players and coaches a little bit. I don't know. It's out of still busy as a normal week, but certainly doesn't feel quite as new.
Kerry Murdoch, Sooner Scoop, and WWLS, and then John Hoover.
Lincoln, obviously, one of the big stories was Robert Barnes and his play against Baylor. I'm curious, now that coaches have had a chance to look at it, how do you approach things with him moving forward? And if he does kind of have to go back to a backup linebacker, is he kind of the guy that this year really helps where, you get a free year?
No, I think it does. I think it absolutely can help a guy like Robert. And I think what this year has shown us and what he's shown us is, having the ability to play both. And I think it's a important thing. I mean, he's been an important member of the special teams all year, done some really, really good things there, did again the other night as well. And no, I think it's a great example. I mean, a guy that's had to do that and step in and play an unexpected position and it doesn't necessarily cost him the year from an eligibility standpoint. So in that, kind of in that frame of mind, it certainly is a positive for him.
But he could still be in the plans moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. No, the way he's played, again, defensively and special teams, no question he could be.
Let's go to John Hoover with SI Sooners, and then Cliff Brunt.
Hey, Lincoln. West Virginia's been in the conference now for 8 years, so obviously you guys know them, no big deal, right? But the fact of the matter is they're still, I counted it up, they're halfway to Canada, mileage-wise. What is it that's unique about this trip? Can you describe for us some of the things that go into this trip that you don't have to do on other road trips?
I don't know if the trip is actually that unique. I mean, you fly, you're on the plane 45 minutes, an hour longer than most of these other ones. I mean, which at the end of the day, it's, for most of our players, it's 45 minutes or an hour more sleep or, this year it is a little bit that it's 45 minutes or an hour longer of wearing a N95 mask with a shield on top, which is not the most comfortable thing to do, but that's not that big a deal. And honestly, no, you fly in, you're a little bit further from the stadium, from where we fly in than some of the places, but honestly, it's not, the trip's not that big a deal. I think I think the thing about it is West Virginia typically has played very well at home. I mean, forever and ever. And like I said, this year is no different. I believe they're undefeated at home. They've really played well at home. They've, normally got a really fun kind of into it crowd. It's a good atmosphere. We've had some pretty epic games down there. So, I think it's just more of you're playing a good football team on the road that tends to play pretty well at home. And those are always a challenge.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to Cliff Brunt, AP, and then James Hale.
Yeah, Coach, I was looking at the standings, and I noticed that the top 5 teams in the Big 12 standings are also the top 5 teams in rushing offense per game. Last season, Big 12 had the nation's leading rusher. The league currently has the nation's leading rusher. Have you seen an emphasis on the run game increase in the last couple of years? And if so, why?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say. For so long, this league was just, known for throw. And some of that, was deserved. And there has always been, I think, some pretty good backs and some pretty strong run games in this in this league. But I mean, running the ball is important. I mean, it is. It's you know, the team that's won it here the last several years has been able to run the ball pretty good. I mean, that's is what it is. And so it's important. I think, especially when you're talking about winning games in the later months, where you may hit a game with inclement weather or whatever the case may be. When you can run the football, you got so many more opportunities and ways that you can win. And I think there's a lot of coaches in the league right now that have a very similar thought process there and are putting that kind of emphasis on it.
Go to James Hale, KREF, followed by Garen Emig.
Lincoln, the Baylor game was one of the rare games the offensive line had, guys breaking through, looked like untouched, going after your quarterback. That just doesn't happen with Bill Bedenbaugh. I'm curious, what went on with the offensive line, and now that you've had a chance to look at them, how well did they play in the game?
Oh, I don't think anybody on offense played particularly well. And like I said, when that's the case, you're going to spring leaks. And there's times it was the O-line. There's times it was the quarterback. There's times it was running backs. There's times the receivers were wrong. There was times that there was a lot of times that those guys weren't coached very well. So, I mean, it's just kind of a cause of just kind of leaks springing all over. And just we didn't do a very good job handling it. So, no, I mean, that's I think, it wasn't anybody's best game. And so there, like I said, the mistakes were kind of shared all the way around. It wasn't like we went in the game and the O-line played terrible and man, those skill guys, they sure played awesome. I mean, it was just, we kind of all took our turns and there's still a lot of good. I mean, there was, the problem is, again, in offensive football, 9 guys can be doing it freaking perfect and 1 or 2 guys aren't. It looks like a train wreck. I mean, it's part of playing offensive ball. And that was just kind of our story the whole night. So that's obviously been a big emphasis point this week of, playing with all 11 and playing a lot more consistently. And then us as coaches doing a much better job as well.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Garen Emig, Tulsa World, and then Jenny Carlson.
Lincoln, is there an obvious way that this season, with all of its challenges on, off the field, is there an obvious way that it's changed you as a coach?
That's a good question. I'm sure it has. May not be something until I don't know, when I come back up for water or for air when this thing's over. Maybe a little bit hard to see until then, but I'm sure it has. I think it's challenged us all in different ways. And I think just continuing to kind of believe what's possible, things we've been able to overcome, things we've been able to do in a different way than ever before. I mean, again, to sit there and, tell somebody in last January that you're not going to have spring ball, your players aren't going to be here for 3 months, you're going to recruit your entire recruiting class on a computer screen like we're doing right now. You're going to have to wear a mask everywhere. You're going to try to conduct a sport in a pandemic where our setup with college, community type living and young people in a contact sport with a lot of people in an organization is maybe one of the worst recipes that you could possibly have to contain this thing. And that we would still be able to do it all pretty successfully, kind of makes you realize what's possible, I think. And yeah, and then I do think it's, us as coaches, I'm definitely bad about times. You can be a control freak. You want to have your hands on everything. You want to control as much as you possibly can and take the variables out for your staff and your players. But this thing's taught me probably more and more that, I got to control, what I can and I can't get too worked up or too down or spend too much time on the things that I absolutely cannot control.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Carlson, the Oklahoman, and then Joey Helmer.
Hey, Lincoln, when you guys got Ronny back, it's kind of like a mid-season trade added to your team, if you want to borrow from like the NBA vernacular or whatever. But when you think about now his impact on the defense more as a whole, what has it done for your defense? How has your defense changed in your mind with Ronny back in the lineup?
Well, I think the main thing, and is really just getting back the leader and his presence. I mean, he's a guy that he's one of the true alphas on this team, and one of the true alphas defensively, and has a presence and a way about him that our guys follow. And so, as much as we were missing having a good quality player out there, we were honestly missing that probably more. And not that guys didn't step up in his while he wasn't here, they did, but it's like, everybody sees just adding a good player, but man, adding that leadership and that experience and that fire and all that just honestly makes everybody else around them better. And that's what really good leaders, that's what they do. And he's done that for us.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Helmer, OU Insider, and then Keegan Renault.
Yeah, Lincoln, Shane talked about wanting to come back and kind of finish things out with the guys that he's been around all year. What does that say about your program that that he kind of wants to finish this thing out, even though obviously he's already the head coach now at South Carolina?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it says we have quality people here. And I think people that, take a lot of pride in what we do in this program and the success that we've had. And so I know it means a lot to our staff and our players that Shane would want to do that. And I know it meant a lot to him that he was extended the opportunity to do that, because we've all seen, several instances of this around the country where, maybe a guy that takes a job is, not afforded that opportunity. So I think it certainly went both ways. And, he and I were both on the same page. I absolutely want him to do it if he felt like it was the right thing for him, and he wanted to do it if I felt like it was the right thing for us. And so it wasn't a long discussion, pretty easy decision, on the same page. And and it's he's been a part certainly of what this team has done, and we got some great things in front of us. And so I think it's fitting that he'd be with us here till the end.
Keegan Renault, Sooners Wire.
And on the same lines with Shane leaving to South Carolina, what's the kind of timeline? I know with recruiting signing days coming up, but what's the timeline maybe replacing him? And I know you've kind of gone with Shane Beamer and Jamar Cain, two guys you didn't have a ton of connections to. What are you kind of looking for in that coach to replace Shane Beamer?
We'll see. I mean, it's a broad question. You see what happens, with the rest of the staff, and, hopefully we're able to retain everybody else. Again, you just never know. So we'll see how that plays out. Certainly not going to be in a hurry right now. I mean, we've got too much to focus on, some big weeks obviously upcoming. So, we'll kind of see how that plays out. I don't know that I'd want to pin myself in right now into exactly, what I'm looking for, all that. The honest answer right now is not honestly looking a whole lot right now. Trying to focus on doing our best with this team and understanding that we're going to sign this class here in a little over a week regardless, and we're going to go play these next few games regardless, and we've got time to get to that once those things wrap up.
Have you ever had a coach get hired in the middle of a game like that you've been around? Well, I know it's reports and this and that, but I mean, we knew there was a chance. It wasn't obviously a shock to us, and the fact that he was in quarantine made that probably possible. But I've been a part of staffs where this has happened before, and I think if everybody handles it well, it can, you just kind of business as usual. I mean, Shane's in our meetings this morning, just like he always is, doesn't feel like anything's different. So, it's a cool story, and hopefully it can have a great ending here, and obviously a great beginning for him at South Carolina.